When you were a kid imagining what you would do if you lived in the Pokemon world, what did you see? Catching all the Pokemon and finishing your Pokedex? Fighting your way to becoming the strongest trainer in the world? What about sitting on the sidelines and becoming a Pokemon professor? Okay, so that last one sounds a little less cool than the others, but it's actually the closest thing that there is to real life. This is because of the Pokémon Professor Program, a certification that only the most dedicated of fans can get to become volunteers at competitive events. Before we can really explain it further though, we need to establish who it is that you're working for. This would be... Back in the year 2003, Wizards of the Coast lost their license to make Pokemon cards, and the production was then taken over by the Pokemon Company International. With this came not only a new design for the cards, but also a lot of new responsibilities. Up to this point, Wizards was also in charge of the tournaments for the card game, so Nintendo needed to take charge of these too. To keep everything organized though, they had to create an official league, aptly titled Pokemon Organized Play. This was later changed to simply Play Pokemon, but it wouldn't have been as funny if I said that first. This new program did a number of things like bridge the gap between Japanese and international scenes, improve the prizing, and even add the Professor Program as we know it today. Before we can get into the Professor Program for real, I do have a tangent about the prizing that fits here better than anywhere else probably. By winning in tournaments, you could win an array of prizes, scholarships, current set booster packs, booster boxes, and even invitations to future tournaments. You couldn't win though if you didn't attend. So the Pokemon Company needed to incentivize players. Enter the Pop Series. These were special 2-card packs given out at official events, and in some value boxes later on. These packs helped introduce old cards back into the current meta, along with some Japanese exclusive cards and just cool cards for collectors. These included the first ever 2D illustrated EX card, Tyranitar EX, and the first legal card to feature multiple Pokemon, the Pichu Bros. However, in the 5th Pop series released in 2006 was this magnificent Umbreon Gold Star, which at a PSA 10 has sold for more than 5 years of my rent. The Espeon Gold Star that released beside it is a very similar story. Heck, the 2-card pack alone is a higher net worth than me. Now that tangent's out of the way, we can move on to figuring out. Imagine you walk into your local card shop to compete in their Pokemon card tournament. Mid-game, you and your opponent have a dispute over the rules. You call over a judge and on comes some random Joe Schmo who doesn't really know the rules, but he likes your opponent more, so he rules in their favor. Now imagine that exact same thing happening, but the person has a cool certification from the Pokemon Company. Okay, so that is a joke. Those with the Professor certification received it because of their ability to judge these events. And that is the main job of a Pokemon Professor, making sure that the rules of the game are being followed and to ensure that each match runs smoothly. Average Professor duties also involve helping people get signed in and answering any questions that a child or man-child could think of. These jobs are split into 3 ranks and 3 different certifications. You can either be a General Organizer, a TCG Judge, or a VG Judge. Each of these certifications can either be at the basic level, stage 1 level, or stage 2 level. And you know, it's kinda cute because that's also how they categorize Pokemon. Regardless, these jobs range from being able to report results, to being the sole one responsible for catching cheaters and rewinding the game when needed. Some professors are able to take it a step beyond just judging though. Some move on to become certified tournament organizers, being responsible for running the tournaments in their entirety. Others may even begin hosting their own Pokemon League. These leagues are smaller and generally more casual events, allowing smaller and bigger players alike to compete and trade without the pressure. The league owner is a Pokemon Professor who essentially does all the paperwork, and is the bridge between players and the Pokemon Company. The best of the best professors may even be certified to host premier events at their location, like regional championships, which as we saw at Baltimore, can't possibly go wrong. Having the certification of Pokemon Professor proves that the Pokemon Company has approved of you as a judge for their events. This requires a certain level of knowledge in Pokemon, its card game, and/or the video games. You also need to prove that you hold yourself to the standards of what they have called. First is integrity, which, referring back to my visual about unprofessional judges, is all about being unbiased in your pursuit of judging the game. When you get down on the field of duty, you have no friends and no family. Only the knowledge that Horror House GX doesn't prevent you from using Viridian Forest. Similarly, honesty is a huge deal, as lying is a disgrace to the lab coat everyone in the promotional images seem to be wearing. Next is responsibility, which is obvious, because with great lab coats comes great responsibility. Jokes aside, it would be really frustrating to need help at an event, and the sole person who can help you just won't take it seriously. Tying in with this one is professionalism. When you put on that When you are at an event, you represent the Pokémon Company, and they don't want you partaking in any horseplay. Professors have to put a lot of work to uphold a lot of different standards, but what is it that they get back? What are the Throughout the years, many competitive Pokemon players have made a real name for themselves. Jason Klaczynski, Ray Rizzo, and Wolfie, just to name a few. Now, name one Pokemon Professor. And don't say Professor Oak, I know he's not real, I won't fall for that one again. It's true. Essentially, being a referee does not lend itself to as much popularity, but this doesn't mean the Pokémon Professor Program is a completely thankless job. The Pokémon Company themselves do a lot to make it worthwhile for their judges. First is the Pokémon Professor Cup, which is a tournament exclusive to Stage 1 and above Pokémon Professors to fight it out for special prizes. What makes these tournaments so interesting is that they add special rules to make the game more exciting. For example, the Orlando, Florida Professor Cup is doing what is called a Solomon Draft, where each player opens 6 packs without looking and shuffles their contents together. They then flip coins for the opportunity to pick cards from the mix to create a 40-card deck to then compete with. Winning these events can score you exclusive merch, cool tech, and, if you win, accommodations and a position on the staff for the Pokémon World Championship for that year. Even if you don't get the opportunity to compete in these events, you can still get some of that exclusive Pokémon Professor merchandise. You do this through the aptly titled Pokémon Professor Rewards Store. Just like how players who compete in events gain points, the judges do too. When you get enough of these, you can drop a couple bands on something like this new coin. Now that we've laid some groundwork for what a professor is, it's time for me to take you on the journey of Okay, so here's the deal. I started this video a long time ago. Due to unforeseen circumstances that I'll mention later, it took me a while to finish. In this time, I may or may not have lost some vital footage of me testing, and I'll have to improvise. Thank you for your understanding, and be sure to subscribe. I, primarily playing and talking about the Pokemon card game, am going to pursue the TCG judge route in the program. The first step to doing this is taking the exam. The basic TCG exam covers exactly what you would think: how many cards can be in a deck, what can you do on any given turn, and even some stuff on card sleeve rulings. It then goes up a step further by giving you specific scenarios, like if person A plays this card, can person B play this card? Or things like, can you use a super potion even if the active Pokemon has no energy? Then to finish it off, they began asking some really weird moral questions like, would you pull the lever to save 5 senior division finalists if it meant discarding 1 champion? Weird stuff. Once I finished my exam, I waited. After about 1 month, I got an email from a background check company, saying that Pokemon had requested one. I obliged without a second thought, though I didn't record footage because I was just typing all my personal information and didn't really see a reason to share it. Regardless, I went back to waiting, and waiting, and waiting. 3 months had passed, and I even began to believe they found something on my background check that even I didn't know about. It wasn't until I was scrolling through Twitter and saw someone post their exam results that I thought it was weird I actually never got mine. One email to customer support and a long night's rest later, and I wake up to something beautiful. An email saying I got a 100% on my exam. 2 more emails echoing that fact for some reason, and a confirmation I had been accepted into the Pokémon Professor Program. This, probably being the most monumental moment in my life, had to be memorialized in some way. Luckily, I was able to print the acceptance and hang it on the wall right next to this much less significant document. Later that same day, I went to the local card shop and coincidentally came across these old Pokémon Professor judge cards, and I couldn't help but buy them. I am now off to go take some of those 2-hour classes from the Professor University. If you need someone to help work your event, and you live near my personal home address as pictured here, be sure to reach out. Until that day, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's free, so you'll always get your money's worth.